everyone, and welcome to the Agency Advantage podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you're listening to if you want to find out more about what it's like to work in-house in pharma or biotech. So today's episode, we're going to focus on 5 reasons to ditch your agency job and work in-house in pharma or biotech. I started working in pharma about 7 or 8 years ago now, and I'd been working in agency for probably about 15 years before that. And honestly, for my career, this is the best move I've ever made. I have more flexibility. I have more financial freedom. I have savings now. I never had those when I was working in agency because the salaries are quite a lot lower. I feel like I have much more influence. I have more leadership opportunities. The world is my oyster, really. And I think working in corporate pharma definitely has its perks. 5 reasons to ditch your agency, consulting, or CRO role and work in-house in pharma or biotech. Number 1, working in pharma or biotech, you're much closer to the purpose. And what do I mean by that? When you're working in agency, it feels like you're delivering someone else's vision. You're basically just executing a bunch of things. Sometimes you don't even know why. Sometimes they don't even make sense. But you're really not there to question as such. You're just there to execute. And I think that's a real shame because you have a lot to offer as a scientist and you probably have great ideas, but maybe they have another strategy that you're not seeing. They have some other kind of vision that you're not really privy to. So it's very difficult to add value as an agency person. Number 2, this is about your long-term career prospects. In agency, it's not always so clear which direction you can go in, especially if you're a medical writer. You can go to senior medical writer, you can go to principal medical writer, but not everyone in medical writing wants to go and be the head of an agency and things like that. So I think if you're very scientific, it may be quite difficult to get really senior role in agency. It's maybe slightly clearer if you're like the account management route, because then you can go into business development, you can go into running an agency and all of the other things like forecasting and financing and things that go behind it. I think they lend it themselves better to people who are in the account management type roles. Whereas if you go into pharma, especially roles like market access, commercial, external comms, medical affairs, regulatory affairs, there are really clear career paths. Agency can be quite flat. And typically those career paths, there's clear job descriptions. Sometimes there are programs like young leadership programs. There's in-house coaching. There's all kinds of things. You can switch departments. There's just so many more opportunities within industry than there are in agencies or consulting firms. Number 3, you're surrounded by some of the world-leading experts, not just in-house, but you have better access to them through contracts or other projects that you're working on. So whether you're working with in-house experts or external experts, you're just surrounded by really smart people. So when I first started working in corporate biopharma, I was surrounded by several people who came from big universities like Stanford or who were professors. I really was surrounded by people who knew what they were talking about, and that provided like the best growth opportunity for me, because I was able to learn not just from reading papers and reading the study data. I was actually able to learn about clinical practice in certain disease area, scientific challenges, and just incredible talent. I was surrounded by incredible talent. And that's something that I think you might not get in agency, or is more rare. I touched on this one earlier, but better pay and better perks. In pharma, there are things like really good pension schemes. There are options packages, so share options. There are really good bonuses. When I worked in agency, if you got a 10,000 bonus, that was an incredible year. In pharma, they can be several times that kind of bonus. So the bonuses are fantastic. Not always. Obviously, it depends on how well that pharma company is doing. There are even things like mortgages that you can get discounted. You can get memberships to certain things. Some have gym memberships. There's just really loads of perks that you just don't really get in the agencies or consulting firms. And obviously the salary itself is just, I would say it's around 30% more than typical agency salary on a similar kind of pay scale or level. And with that salary, you can obviously do incredible things. Like I've now started investing. I've got a savings now. So for example, I have a 6 month savings in case I were to lose my job or if anything were to happen. I have this emergency savings. And the last point, your ideas actually land. You have exposure. If you're really smart, you have exposure to senior leadership, and therefore you have the opportunity to share some of your ideas. And depending on how you deliver them and how you research them and link them to the company, the corporate strategy or your brand strategy, then you have the opportunity to influence things. And this is something that I don't think you typically get in agency. Even if you work in a really large agency, you're also a service provider. So it really depends what your clients want. You're subject to the whims of your clients. So this is something that I really love about working in corporate biopharma, that I can actually have an impact and make a difference, not just internally, but externally with patients. So you're much closer to the external world. You can have so much more of an impact. So if you're working in an agency, a CRO, a clinical research organization, or a consultancy firm, then I really definitely recommend working in-house in industry. It's not always easy to get into. That's why it's better to work with coaches, people like me, and there are many others out there can help you to translate your skills and demonstrate your value to pharma hiring managers. So what are you waiting for? Get out there looking for jobs and make the move. Stay tuned for the next podcast episode, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you hear, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.